These nurses in Oakland, California are demanding the safety gear they need to help the rising number of coronavirus patients. The state has received some gloves, masks and ventilators from the federal government, but officials say they need a lot more. On Wednesday, the US Senate approved a $2 trillion package that could help get many of these supplies to where they are most needed.
It's good news for the doctors and nurses in emergency rooms around the country who are waiting for more masks and more funding. It's good news for families all across America. At last, we have a deal.
Under the agreement, $150 billion will be provided to states and local governments. It also sets aside $250 billion for direct payments to individuals and families. $350 billion will be loans to small businesses facing cash flow constraints, while another $250 billion will help cover unemployment insurance claims. That money could be crucial as jobless claims in the country are expected to rise to a record 3.4 million this week. President Donald Trump says a quick return to business as usual is possible despite a continuing rise in the number of coronavirus cases.
Easter is a very special day for many reasons. For me, for a lot of our friends, that's a very special day. And what a great timeline this would be. Easter as our timeline, what a great timeline that would be.
Experts, including those working at the White House, say it's too early to say whether people will be able to get back to work by then. In the meantime, they hope the largest stimulus package in US history will help keep the country afloat. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Well, for more on this, Bruno Verstraete joins us live now from Zurich. He's chief economist and partner at the investment management firm Lakefield Partners. Welcome to Money Talks, Bruno. Now, we know global stock markets have really been following the developments of this $2 trillion deal. Now that it has been agreed on, what's your reaction? Is this what America needs right now?
I do believe that the world needs relief, and they will do whatever it takes. That was something that most world leaders have said. What it takes is basically to fill the gap in income, in revenue, and to make sure that we come out of this in an unscattered way. The question, of course, is how much damage will be done in the meantime, and that is at the moment still very unclear. It is clear that the $2 trillion package, to put it in perspective, is about 25% of total revenues in the US. So it would bridge the revenues of all companies in the US for 1 quarter. It's about 10% of GDP, and it's about 8% of the total outstanding debt. So this is unprecedented in the US, but also worldwide in combination with the monetary stimulus that we have seen.
Now, we're still waiting for the finer details of this historic deal, but we do know it includes a $500 billion fund designed to disperse loans to not only businesses, but also cities and entire states to help them through this crisis. How important is that, the fact that the government is willing to loan huge sums of money in some cases to support businesses and whole governments as well?
I think it is very crucial because otherwise it could become a systemic risk. If someone gets out of a job, gets out of salary, cannot pay his mortgage anymore, banks get into trouble. I mean, we've been there and done that before. I think that's the reason why the speed of reaction of governments and also monetary authorities is that big. This is an economy that was at speed where the handbrake has been pulled, and now we need to be sure that we don't crash into a wall in coming to a standstill, but then also when we roll that we get back to speed quite quickly.
Now, one of the key concerns for the Democratic Party was that they were worried that, as with the bailout we saw after the 2008 financial crisis, that companies, and in that case banks, were going to use those funds to buy back stock or to hand out golden parachutes to executives. Are you concerned that perhaps that might happen in this case, or are you quite confident that these funds won't be abused in that way?
Well, I think this is clearly a humanitarian issue, and I believe that the behavior of most companies and people will also have changed to a large extent. clearly it will be watched and it will not be appreciated by none of them. And I think that, of course, the chance is always there, but I believe that the intensity and the depth of all sectors being affected makes it also very crucial that there's no abuse, and that abuse will be watched very closely. So I believe it will not be the case.
We know one industry that's been severely impacted from this outbreak has been the aviation industry, and one of the components of this agreement is a $50 billion provision to help America's struggling airlines through this crisis. What are they likely to do with that money, and will it save airlines such as Delta, American, and the like survive?
Well, of course, all the planes are grounded. Again, one needs to fill the gap of revenue in order to make sure that salaries can be continued to be paid, that any loan on new planes can be paid, and that once this situation normalizes, that they could go back to business as usual. That is, in a sense, what they want to do. Clearly, the ones living on the edge will be the difficult ones in order to come out of this without any scars.
Now, alongside what US lawmakers have just agreed on, we know the US Federal Reserve has also enacted unprecedented measures, saying that it's willing to spend as much as it takes on things like bonds in order to keep the economy afloat. Which package do you think is more crucial here? What the US Congress has just passed, or what the US Federal Reserve has announced?
I think the combination of both. Of course, liquidity ran out of the system quite quickly, and there you need the monetary authorities to interfere. That is exactly what they've done worldwide. This is not a regional issue. This is a global issue, and it's good that it is a global issue, because otherwise everyone would start selling the place where the issue is. But I think what we will see is, in first instance, the monetary authorities will interfere, and we will slowly but surely go to a much more interference of the government into a fiscal policy break. But that will be more temporary, I think, than the monetary intervention.
Okay, Bruno Verstraete from Lakefield Partners in Zurich, thank you so much again for your analysis.